Jake Paul elicited a chuckle or two when he compared himself in August to Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather before even his fourth fight, but the controversial YouTuber turned boxer may yet have the last laugh. Even if his fists never match his mouth, his paychecks already rank him among the sport's biggest stars. But how did a YouTuber and former Disney star end up in this position? And will he be at the very top of the boxing mountain? Let's find out. Despite only having 4 professional fights to his name, YouTuber Jake Paul has become one of the biggest paydays in boxing. Over the past 12 months, Paul has earned millions, putting him third on the list of highest paid boxers. The only 2 fighters ahead of him are super middleweight champion Canelo Alvarez and former heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua. Staying true to his nickname, the problem child, he's already causing a stir by not signing up for voluntary drug testing before the fight. He was always like that. At the age of 17, Paul was already building up his infamy on YouTube and the now extinct Vine, posting funny and often controversial skits and pranks, gaining a strong following on both platforms. He soon caught the eye of Disney producers and was tapped to star in the comedy series Bizaardvark. He acted alongside the sensational singer-songwriter Olivia Rodrigo, but he went rogue. As Bizaardvark entered its second season, Paul's controversial YouTube antics started to catch up on him. He found himself in trouble after his neighbors filed complaints against him and his housemates for creating a nuisance. Reportedly, they were lighting fires in their drained swimming pool, racing dirt bikes across their residence and drawing in large crowds of fans. Following these reports, Paul was dismissed from his role on Bizaardvark in 2017. From then on, the problem child was born. Before Disney, along with Vine, Jake was running his YouTube since 2013 and has over 20 million subscribers through his comic and pranking videos. In 2016, he launched a creative agency called Team 10, which helps young influencers reach their potential. However, the house that Jake rented for the group turned into a living hell for its neighbors, with fans thronging the streets. Moreover, several members have left Team 10 since its formation over allegations of bullying and a toxic atmosphere. Then came the hype of boxing. In 2018, YouTube boxing started to generate monumental interest. British personalities KSI and Joe Weller staged the biggest white-collar boxing event in history, drawing in over 100 million viewers globally across all channels. After winning the fight, KSI called out Jake and Logan Paul, or any of the Pauls, as his next opponent. As that event was arranged, Jake signed on to fight KSI's brother, Deji Olatunji, on the undercard, a preliminary match. This marked his boxing debut and the birth of his fighting nickname, Jake the Problem Child Paul. Paul's first fight was against YouTube star Ann Gibb, who had boxing experience thanks to 2 amateur fights. Paul had the clear size advantage, and Ann Gibb could not steady himself when Paul launched power shots at him. He scored 3 knockdowns against Ann Gibb, and the referee had no choice but to call the fight off and give Paul the TKO win. The 25-year-old fought on a legit boxing card in Miami, highlighted by Demetrius Andrade versus Luke Keeler. It was a small taste of things to come. The most memorable fight will always be your first, but it wasn't Jake's best. After beating Ann Gibb in his first pro fight and demanding KSI right after, Paul went on a different route and faced 3-time NBA slam dunk champion Nate Robinson. The fight was on a card featuring a returning Mike Tyson facing Roy Jones Jr. It was the perfect addition to the Thriller Fight Club hosted event. Robinson was dropped late in the first round after Paul engaged within the clinch. In the second, Paul dropped Robinson 2 more times. The second knockdown caused Robinson to fall face first. Paul was awarded the win after the referee called the fight off. The problem child looked like an improved fighter, even though his opponent was a non-factor. Jake's third fight was with Ben Askren. This did not last longer than the Nate Robinson fight. It could be argued that Robinson put on a better performance than Askren. After fighting YouTube stars and NBA players, Paul fought an actual combat sports star in Askren. The former ONE and Bellator welterweight champion were coming off a 2-fight losing streak in the UFC. His reputation for having a unique personality was perfect at the time for Paul. It was an easy win for Paul, who knocked out what seemed like an unmotivated Askren less than 2 minutes into the first round. Last year, Jake had his 4th fight with Tyron Woodley won. This was the first time Paul went the distance, and it was against another MMA fighter in Tyron Woodley. Compared to Askren, however, Woodley, a former UFC welterweight champion, was in prime shape. The beef between the two helped sell the fight. Paul was economical in his punches, landing 35 power shots. He did land 71 shots overall compared to 52 for Woodley. It looked as though Woodley had Paul by the ropes and was ready to end it. Paul was able to recover and the fight went the distance. The problem child won through a split decision, but it wasn't over between the two. Now, in December 2021, Paul fought with Tommy Fury. It was competitive from the start. Both fighters were trying to find an opening. It appeared we were heading towards another fight where the judges were needed, but Paul ended all doubt with one swing. Paul landed a massive shot that dropped Woodley down to the floor. He was out cold, and Paul posed in front of a shocked crowd. While it wasn't as competitive as the first fight, the knockout made it a fight and a moment to remember. Now, you may think most of them were not professional boxers. Yes, they might be, but not Anderson Silva. Silva had 3 wins, 2 losses and 2 knockouts in boxing. He was an opponent many Paul critics said would never fight, but suddenly came together, fueled by Silva's 2021 upset of former middleweight title holder Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Silva, a native of Brazil, was game throughout and appeared to possibly steal a few close rounds by rallying to back Paul up in the final 30 seconds with power shots. But the size and youth of Paul ultimately won out as Silva was forced to largely fight in spots due to his age. Paul outlined Silva 83-79. He floored Silva in round 8 with a counter right hand and landed 42% of his power shots overall, including a 30-13 edge to the body. After the win, Paul turned his attention to calling out Nate Diaz, who was set to be a free agent following the expiration of his UFC deal, and boxing superstar Canelo Alvarez. The Diaz fight is much more realistic and seeds have already been planted as members of Paul and Diaz's team engaged in a scuffle backstage shortly after Diaz's teammate Chris Avila scored a victory to open the pay-per-view card. Despite the onslaught of social media comments praying for his downfall, Paul has beaten the odds time and time again. With a 6-0 record as a professional boxer, 2 of his victories have come against Tyron Woodley and Ben Askren, former welterweight champions of the UFC, and 1 championship. Now he is looking to fight other big names. If things go his way, here's how the YouTube star might spend his next paycheck. When he's not in training camps, Paul can often be found flaunting his wealth on Instagram. His paychecks turn into Rolls Royces of all colors, watches decked in precious jewels, and flights in private jets. Most recently, Paul was seen customizing a Ferrari SF90 Spider for his ever-growing collection. Paul is trying to make boxing his redemption after years of being a pest in both trivial and serious ways, but putting yourself in constantly dangerous situations does have its downsides. In a December 2021 TV appearance, he said he has been experiencing memory loss, mood swings, and slurred speech since launching his boxing career. He estimated he has experienced between 20 and 30 concussions, many of which he sustained as a child playing football. He said doctors have advised him to stop boxing, but he does not want to stop. That might be because Paul can see a lot of value in the sporting arena. He announced on August 8th that he's launching a sports micro-betting platform that will allow users to gamble on every single play, score, drive and player. Being able to bet on boxing is a huge part of the reason Mayweather is one of the highest paid athletes of all time. Americans wagered about $60 billion on sports-related bets in 2021. There's a land grab going on within the online sports betting realm right now, and Paul will be up against a stiff competition to break through with his new company. But maybe it doesn't matter whether he succeeds, as long as people are talking about him, he wins. Muhammad Ali credited a professional wrestler from the 1940s named Gorgeous George for saying that it didn't matter why people were coming to see him fight just as long as they came to see him. In the influencer age, we might say that all views are good views if they're generating revenue. Paul isn't yet experiencing the boxing success he seems to want so desperately. Maybe he never will, and it doesn't matter because his real currency is attention and he's figured out a new avenue for it. Maybe that's what Paul wants, who knows? And there you have it. We hope you enjoyed today's video and we thank you for staying with us till the end. Please make sure to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell for all new and upcoming videos. We have new ones every week. Until then, we'll see you on the next one.